VETtalk video and podcasts are proudly supported by the Animal Referral Hospital.
This week,
something a little different as we come to you live from the Chatswood Cat Palace in Sydney, New South Wales.
G'day, I'm Brian Pickering.
And I'm Kaye Browne.
And even if you're not crazy about cats, as our special guest is, we'll still have something just for you. Now make sure you check out the VETtalk show guide at vettalkradio.com.au, or you can find us in the iTunes store absolutely free.
But right now, our very special guest, a feline veterinarian and owner of the Chatswood Cat Palace, Dr. Kim Kendall.
Good morning, Kaye and Brian.
Yeah. Where's our crowd? Where's our crowd? Hang on. Yes, I can hear them out there. Oh, there's thousands of them, Kim.
Trying to break in or break out?
Oh, I don't know. I'll leave that one up to you. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks for joining us again on VETtalk Radio.
I'm delighted.
And what a fabulous place you have here. We're going to do a little bit of a tour later on, a guided tour of the Cat Palace and the cat boarding and see what you get up to.
Lots of lovely pussycats. I've already checked it out.
Well, I hope there's only pussycats here. We'll find out. Kim, I guess what people would want to know about you is why on earth cats? You know, people like vets have dogs and cats and birds and all that, but you're just specialising in cats.
Well, interestingly, my clients get it. They'll take their dog to a dog vet and they bring their cat to me. So owners get it. It's really only vets who get confused about why would you bother with cats. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the underlying riff from vets of why would you bother with cats. So I tend to go for the underdog, which turned out to be the cat.
The undercat.
The undercat. And so I started learning about them because I thought that was speciesist. Mm-hmm. And just because we knew a lot about dogs, we should also know a lot about cats. Of course, horses were the number one. You know, when people started looking at dogs, the horse vets went, why would you bother? Mm-hmm. So, and now the rabbits are up and coming. Mm-hmm. So I'm just in the middle of the stream of feline medicine. I'm not a cat nut, although I now have 7 cats.
I did start calling you the cat lady.
The cat lady.
So.
Yes, I'm trying not to wear that moniker. But cats weren't my first passion, and they're probably not going to be my last. It's just that I'm quite good at working with them. I enjoy it, and I like the cat owners, which most vets don't.
Okay. Right.
Why don't they like them?
Well, because on average they're better educated, and now with Dr. Google, they can ask some fairly, incisive questions, and you need to be pretty well on top of your game in order to answer it. Now, I'm not on top of dogs, and I used to be interested in birds. I did some extra study with those as well. But these days you have to be able to have some depth. Once upon a time, you could know a little bit about everything and get away with it. Now you have to be on top of it in order to gain the owner's confidence and trust.
And probably just, I know you're not a specialist as such in the technical sense, I suppose, but you specialise in cats. I suppose by just doing that, picking one species, you get to learn a lot more about it, and you've been quite instrumental in lots of areas. And one of the areas I want to go into is, in fact, you're on the board, is it, of the Fear Free Vet Committee with Dr. Marty Becker, America's favourite vet. Tell us about that. How do we educate pet owners to, I guess, not have
a stressful experience?
A stressful experience. Thank you very much, Kay. That's the word I was just looking for.
I knew you were.
I've been, e-chatting to Marty for years. We've met up a couple of times over the years, and every time he asked me about a cat question, because he's written several books and he's acknowledged me for some of the things that I've told him, I've just kept muttering about how you have to treat the cats properly and in a cat-friendly fashion in order to get the best out of them. So I've been muttering to him for years, and then he's been to a couple of behaviour conferences, and he finally met up with someone who gave him the last kick in the pants, as it were, to start promoting a better way to look at pets in general. So his fear-free movement is not just, it's for dogs, it's for rabbits, it's for
everything.
For everything. And it's because it's an attitudinal change rather than a physical change. So if you could build a bigger, better hospital that would make it friendly for dogs, cats and their owners, rabbits and ferrets, then that would be easy to promote, because boys like to build things, and in general the male vets are still the majority of practice owners. And you watch what boys build and they're big. So if you could...
Remember, other vets will be listening to this.
So, they like to build lovely big hospitals and fill them up with lots of vets. And that in itself is not going to make it less fearful for an animal. If you view it from an animal's point of view, if you ever even get down on the ground and look what's going on. We've achieved, and Marty again was one of the prime movers in this area. He tends to be quite a few years ahead of the game, but he was in the early days talking about train your receptionist and make them the face of your business, make sure they understand, make sure that they welcome the client. Well, welcoming the client is not the same as welcoming the animal. And the thing is that some of the things that we do that make veterinary practice convenient for the vet and the client is not all that convenient for the animal. So it's almost full circle, because when I first went into practice last century...
yeah, that's when I was starting in this too.
Just last century, you basically did whatever there was no question that you would attend to an animal at any time. And, house calls, there were more house call vets and those sorts of things. So that's actually quite animal friendly and less stressful, but it doesn't work very well as a model for modern medicine. You can't carry your MRI around to the practice. I think there's going to have to be two sets. There's going to be the specialist hospital, and it's going to be, where all the equipment is, and it's like going to hospital. I mean, I don't know. I've been to hospital, I've had major surgery, and it's a seriously unpleasant experience, and they do absolutely nothing there about patient care. I think the veterinary specialist hospitals do a lot better than that right
I think
now.
so, and a lot of people actually say exactly that. I've got this, I've got that wrong with me. I'd rather go to a veterinary specialist hospital than perhaps a human hospital.
Yeah, Brian's still waiting to get his knees done at the animal referral hospital.
Be seen earlier, be seen as more of an individual, but it is quite easy to get lost in the process, because there's a lot going on there. And then I think general practice has to, where the first contact which sees more animals needs to be made more pet friendly. And so that's the fear-free movement. They've done a lot of research. Marty's got some really top people on board. I am actually one of the first. I was at his first fear-free board meeting, which just happened. I was in America and I went along to it, and there were some very familiar faces.
You make it sound so like easy. It's like, oh well, I was just there and we just went, we had a meeting, and he's only America's #1 vet.
Well, the interesting thing about anybody very high up in their profession, if you're interested in what they do, they'll talk to you. I haven't ever found a vet say, bugger off. That's not, and
if they're passionate,
and that's how they've got to be good. You don't get to be good unless you're really passionate about it. And then the human condition is to spread that. You don't want to keep it to yourself. So Marty was at a conference I was at, and at a loose end, and we went out on the town with a guy called Rick Lakuta. Now he's the #1 neurologist in the world, veterinary neurologist, but. That's how it was. There was nobody else around, and we painted the town a little red. And
the same colour as your hair.
Yeah, that's right. And then email came in, and that made it much easier. So if you're passionate about it and you ask a sensible question, then almost anybody will talk to you.
Exactly.
Fantastic. Well, look, we'll take a little break, and we've got lots of cat-related stories we want to talk to you about, but in just a moment.
You're listening to Vet Talk, and we'll return to our chat with Dr. Kim Kendall in just a moment.
However, we received an email from Jenny in Orange, lovely part of the world there, wanting to know urgently something about birds. So, of course, we asked the Animal Referral Hospital's exotics vet, Dr. Jayne Weller, to help out and answer this question.
Should we be feeding wild birds in our backyard?
No, I don't think we should be feeding wild birds for multiple reasons. Firstly, attracting wild birds into our yard, if we've got birds ourselves, really helps to mix all those diseases up, and we end up with pets with diseases. And it can be, as simple as parasites and right up to viruses that we cannot treat, and those animals may die. And then on top of that, if we're feeding lots of wild birds in our yard, especially in urban areas where there's potentially large populations in small areas of good habitat, then we're increasing the numbers of birds in those areas. We're making it really impossible for them to find enough natural food. And so suddenly when we're not able to feed them for some reason, we go on holidays for a month, those animals don't have enough food to eat, and there's a lot of competition. Disease spread more easily happens in those populations, and we end up with things like beak and feather disease throughout a whole flock and bacterial diseases. So no, I think feeding wild birds is not really a great idea. I mean, you can imagine if you added more seed to that, you'd have all these birds that weren't supposed to be there, and all those birds that lived in your area wouldn't have enough food to eat.
Okay, well, that was Dr. Jayne Weller, the exotics vet from Sydney's Animal Referral Hospital.
She makes a lot of sense. For you and I, it would be like having a Christmas feast every day and then suddenly nothing. So just don't do it.
You're listening to VETtalk Radio. We're live from the Chatswood Cat Palace in Sydney, New South Wales, Australia, with Australia's cat vet, Dr. Kim Kendall. Now, Kim, it's coming up to Christmas time right now, and everyone loves to buy presents for their dogs, their cats, their birds, their whatever, but they're not all good, are they? What are some good examples of presents for cats, if you're going to go down that road?
If you're going to go down that road and...
It's like your cats aren't getting Christmas presents?
No, we do actually give a bit of turkey to all the cats in boarding. I mean, you have to bear in mind that my Christmas is spent cleaning cat trays. Okay. But then nobody wants me to stuff the turkey afterwards, so that's a good feature of it. To be honest, there's this big discussion about feeding cats and what should you feed them, and are you evil for feeding them kibble and all that sort of stuff. Well, treats are fine. The fat cats are going to eat the treats anyway. I think we may be going down the wrong direction. People are saying that the treats make the cat fat. No, if you're going to be fat, you're going to eat treats. There are skinny cats, and I've had 4 of them. You couldn't give them any treats. They wouldn't eat them. So there is an enormous genetic component to being a fat cat.
So treats are okay as a Christmas present. Yeah? What about toys? What about toys are going to happen?
In terms of toys, you're talking to the world expert.
Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to show you the best toys?
Yeah.
She's going to show us a few of her toys, which are for sale at the Chatswood Cat Palace.
You can actually get these now on the internet. They used to be prohibited import. We managed to get them via New Zealand, but you can now get them directly. And so what you're looking for is to stimulate the cat's hunting instinct, because if you talk about cat, you talk about hunt, and it is so ingrained. It's absolutely not true that you can breed hunting out of cats. The Australian misbreeds say they have, rubbish. The ragdoll people say they have, rubbish. The British Shorthair just doesn't bother.
Too laid back.
Too laid back. But I know ragdolls who bring home rats, and that's pretty brave of a cat to bring home a rat. So what you want to do, especially with young cats, is play with them and stimulate their hunting reflexes, and they love it. They get a dopamine release. It's like being on ecstasy. So, it's a cheap ecstasy pill.
That's, as they say, like you're not saying
from experience. No, I still like to hunt. So. Yeah. The mouse is less destructible, and if you run this little thing underneath a piece of newspaper, the cats cannot resist. Okay. They simply, you see them, and they're trying to ignore it, and then they have to put their hand out. And then this bird is fantastic.
So it's wire on a stick?
It's
a stick with some wire and
it's
feathers.
Got some feathers. Now, these feathers are very specific. The chicken feather knockoffs are not as successful. When you play with this, it actually twists and has the whir of a distressed bird. So I hope that whatever creature this is not rare, because I'd like to see lots of more of these imported and in Australian houses. But because it's a bird, it took a long time to get import regulations, so that I believe it's a guinea fowl, but I don't know for sure.
Okay.
So those are the 2 toys
that you would suggest if you're going to get anything.
Yeah.
And what's an absolute no-no for a gift?
Just to tell you one more thing about the toy, most people play with the toy too fast. They whip it. You need to make the bird or the mouse move at 25 centimetres a second, which is how fast a mouse runs, and create a pause.
You haven't seen the mice at our place. We've got chickens, so, you know.
Well, you should time it. There was actually a ferret owner, unbelievably, who timed how fast a mouse ran.
It just proves my point. Ferret owners have too much time.
Too much time on their hands, and then exactly.
That last thing,
the no-no?
Yeah, that people mistakenly think is a good thing.
Well, you have to be careful with the laser toys because some cats become obsessed about them. So I'm not sure every cat can see the toy, but if they can, I mean, it is a fantastic toy. But apparently, unless you make it, the laser light stop on something that the cat can pounce on and preferably eat, so a little bit of kibble or whatever, they don't complete the hunting thing, and they can get into this obsessive cycle. And some people, you know, it's quite funny to run the laser light under the fridge and then turn it off. But the cat can become obsessed by that, and then they become hyper-stimulated, and that's not fair on the cat. So just make sure that they pounce on something at the end. Otherwise, most cat toys are okay. The cats will just ignore them.
Thank you so much for inviting us to come to the Chatswood Cat Palace. We've had a lot of fun, and I just think it's an amazing place. So,
even if you don't like cats, you know, or don't want a cat.
How have you got away with that for so long?
Yeah, absolutely fascinating.
Yes, we've got to work on that, Ken.
Yeah.
I'd happily have another cat. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're very welcome.
Thanks, Kim. And you've been listening to Dr. Kim Kendall, who's head honcho at the... What's a head cat called? You know, we've got alpha dogs. Do you got alpha cats?
Well, we don't have alpha dogs anymore, and there's certainly never an alpha cat. There's the one who's getting away with it.
Okay. So the one who's getting away with it, Dr. Kim Kendall from the Chatswood Cat Palace. I hope you can join us again on VETtalk on vettalkradio.com.au every week, or download us from iTunes. Absolutely free. I'm Brian Pickering.
I'm Kaye Browne.
See you then.
Over and out.